stomach, then small intestine. You should be able to identify if you're in duodenum, because you should be able to identify Brunner's glands. And then there's also jejunum and ileum. And I'll give you clues to identify those other two. And then we'll talk about colon. Something I really focus on in colon are the importance of goblet cells. So I'm going to turn off the lights. I know it's hard to see in the dark, but I'll leave that up there. This is the esophagus. And basically, you're seeing the whole thing under low mag. And the reason why I have the labels here are so I can ask you to identify the different layers. That's mucosa, that's the submucosa, that's the muscularis externa, that's the circular, that's the longitudinal layers, and then that's the serosal advent tissue, although it's very light. Some of you guys have lights on. Can you turn off the light? It's really harsh on my eyes here, sorry. Thank you for doing that. Well, this is a close-up view of the top mucosa. So let's go low mag, see that? We're gonna look at it close up. Because you can see a lot of things well in the esophagus that you can't see well in other places. So first, know this is the esophagus. Here's the esophagus. 1, 2, and 3 are all mucosa. So this is call it a stratified squamous epithelium. Remember, we only classify it based on the apical cells, which are flat and there are many layers. Stratified squamous epithelium for number 1. Number 2, lamina propria. Number 3, muscularis mucosa. Okay. Here's a kind of pulled back view a little bit. Again, stratified squamous epithelium, lamina propria, muscularis mucosa. From here on down is submucosa. That's the circular layer of muscularis externa. Here's the full view of muscularis externa. You can clearly see 2 layers, a circular and a longitudinal layer. So above that, what's it going to be? Submucosa. And you can even see at the top here, muscularis mucosa. Moving on from esophagus to stomach. Here I have the layers of the GI tract wall going from 1 to 4. Serosa, muscularis externa, submucosa, mucosa. Closer up view, number 1 is pointing to muscularis mucosa. Number 2, gastric glands deep in the mucosa. Number 3, gastric pit. Okay, so for a pit, I'll point to something that actually looks like a pit. For the gland, it's deeper inside. Anything I point to in the mucosa is just put gastric gland. This is also stomach, maybe a different region. What would you call that? Pit or gland? Pit. Gland's down here. There's muscularis mucosa, there's submucosa. Now, this is supposed, it's not, it's not shown well. I'll teach it, but I probably won't use it for the quiz. It's not very clear. This is supposed to show you 3 muscle layers in the stomach. The inner oblique, circular, and then this one's longitudinal. Although it's not, the quality is not so good. This one's better. Here we see 3 layers of muscularis externa, the longitudinal, circular, and oblique. There's a little break there to make it easier for me to figure it out. Number 4, submucosa. Number 5, mucosa. You can see the pits, the pits on the surface there, and the glands deeper inside. Here's a closer up view of those 3 muscle layers. Oblique, longitudinal, oblique, circular, then longitudinal. Let's get that right. We're going to move on from stomach to small intestine, duodenum. So the reason why you can identify this as duodenum, look for number 6. Number 6 is the Brunner's gland. Within number 4, which is the submucosa. So number 5 is mucosa. And you can see some villi there. intestinal crypts. For the muscularis externa, we have two muscle layers, the circular, number 3, the longitudinal, number 2. Number 1 is, oh, I'm sorry, I should write by accident. Number 1 is serosa, or adventitia. So that is duodenum. This is jejunum. I'm just showing you the mucosa. What I'd like to ask you for jejunum is the villi crypt. So is that the villi or the crypt?
Villi.
That's the villi, that's the crypt. Here's a close-up view of the crypt with the Paneth cells. You do see some goblet cells deep in the crypt, but if I ask you to identify a red cell, it's a Paneth cell. So look, that's the intestinal crypt, or you could call it the crypts of Lieberkühn with Paneth cells.
Where are the Paneth cells?
Any cell that's red.
Okay.
Any cell that's clear is a goblet cell. The malt is number 4. That's how I know we're in ileum. So for jejunum, I would focus on the villi and crypts of Lieberkühn with Paneth cells. For ileum, the way you tell, look for malt. Number 4. I mean, it's pretty obvious, right? The big purple splotch is malt. Well, it's within number 3 here, the submucosa. We call it mucosa-associated lymphoid tissue because it kind of goes up into the mucosa there. So you kind of have a break in here. Number 6 is pointing to muscularis mucosa. So number 5 is mucosa. We have our muscularis externa, our inner circular or outer longitudinal. That's ileum. So after ileum is large intestine or colon, shown here. Number 1. Okay, by now you should be able to tell me.
Mucosa.
Mucosa. Number 2.
Submucosa.
Submucosa. I do see muscularis mucosa. See that thin pink line? Yeah. Number 3. Circular layer of muscularis externa. And number 4, well, the same except the longitudinal layer. And then 5 is serosa or adventitia. You can see so that there's a blood vessel in there. Now here's a closer up view of a different part, and it has malt. See malt?
Big purple splotch.
Big purple splotch. Got it. Now the arrangement of the mucosa, I'm going to take a close-up view here. That's a goblet cell. The goblet cells are extremely important for the colon. I was telling you in the morning class about a case I'm familiar with. I forget what disease he had, but the man lost function of his goblet cells in his colon, and he depended upon enemas as the only way to get rid of his feces. And the guy, one of my colleagues who actually was the nurse who did that, Professor Woolsey, she was the RN at the time, and she would tell me how she'd go to this guy's house and give him these massive enemas multiple times to clear him out. It would take about 5 hours. And she would only do it twice a month. Think how much you go. Like he could back it up for weeks before he had these enemas. And that's not the remarkable part. The remarkable part is he kept it a secret from his family, from his wife and his kids. He didn't want to burden them with it.
Why?
It was funny, I don't know why. She didn't tell me that part of the case. No, your patients are finicky, I guess. He didn't want to burden his family. It's funny, like she was telling me. So he'd write her a check. He sat at the edge of his bed and write her a check, and she laughed. And she goes, "Why are you laughing?" She goes, "You know what this looks like, right?"
Services rendered.
Yeah, I know. So he always made it a point to put RN on the check. And so it just made me, this is the importance of the goblet cells. I mean, you can't pass your bowels if these don't work right. So that case made me appreciate them more. All right, well, that's it. Done with that.